Shalom, family. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Well, we're going to talk about the new policy for SNAP benefits. It has dramatically changed. A lot of people that were once eligible are not eligible anymore. So there's going to be millions of people cut from SNAP benefits. And some of the ones that are still there have already seen a deep cut in the amount of SNAP benefits they would get. Some people went from getting a few $1,000s down to a few $100s. It's been dramatic cuts. And they're very upset that they're not going to get that same amount of money. But what's happening, and if you were over on TikTok, you saw the videos. You saw white people putting videos out talking about they've been on Snap for 13 years. They've been on it for 10 years. And I think the oldest one I saw was 16 years. I was like, wow. And these were all white people, y'all, saying this over in videos on TikTok. And I showed some of those videos months ago. And that is ridiculous to be on SNAP benefits at that amount of time. That is way over the top. So now people have to work at least 80 hours per month in order to be eligible for SNAP benefits. So they can no longer just sit around and do nothing and collect benefits. Yeah, they're going to make everybody work, and get all kinds of labor out of people. So that is now a requirement, and it is now a lot tougher to get on there, even if it's your first time. It's a lot tougher to get onto SNAP benefits. So you're going to see a lot of people complaining, and they got children to feed, but they're not going to be eligible for benefits anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And by the way, thank you so much for all the donations. We're getting closer to goal on my Give, Send, Go. So I appreciate your help if we can get to, complete up to the goal, which is $10,000. But I deeply appreciate what was given. Okay. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Tanya and Terrell, we're hearing from local and state health leaders this morning who are warning SNAP benefit recipients about some major changes coming down the pike. And these significant new guidelines are set to go into effect in less than 2 weeks. It's estimated that close to 2 million people living in Illinois rely on SNAP benefits to help get food on the table. But that number of people relying on the program could soon drop as changes are set to begin February 1st following new eligibility guidance outlined in President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill.
We're here because food is not a luxury. It's a basic human need.
Cook County state health leaders and the Greater Chicago Food Depository gathering this morning at Provident Hospital on the city's south side to make sure current SNAP benefit recipients can anticipate the sweeping changes.
We know this is stressful. No one should lose access to food because the rules are confusing or because they didn't know where to turn.
Access to food is not just about filling a plate. It is not just about calories. It is about fueling our bodies. It is about mental health. It is about preventing chronic health conditions.
Among the changes, adults 18 to 64 without dependents under 14 must be working, participating in SNAP employment and training programs, or volunteering for at least 80 hours per month to receive the benefits. Soon, adults who do not meet the working requirements can only get SNAP benefits for 3 months in a 3-year period. And effective April 1st, some immigrants who previously qualified are no longer eligible for SNAP, including refugees, asylees, certain human trafficking victims, among others. SNAP recipients must also continue to update their income and household information to ensure they are receiving the correct benefits. As SNAP changes are set to go into effect, Cook County health leaders also discussed food as medicine programs designed to address food insecurity and improve health outcomes, hoping to keep people healthy and well-fed.
These pantries provide whole foods, fresh produce, lean proteins, low sodium and no sugar options that support our patients' clinical nutritional goals.
Now back here live on the South Side this morning, people who are caring for a dependent under the age of 14 are still exempt from the working requirements, but it is important to know if you are affected by these substantial changes. You can visit abc7chicago.com or our news app for more information.
SNAP federal work requirements are in. Okay, I might have came in a little hot. I don't know how y'all gonna feel about it, but here are the new federal SNAP work requirements. For the song about it, like the hit go. It used to be from 18 to 54, you had to work, and then raised it to 64, like 64 years old. So if you can walk around, move your hands, and say, welcome to wherever I can, may I help me and explain to somebody 23 years old why they should hire you to do a job. And then if he does get the job, OG gonna be like, I hate these young niggas. I can't stand these young niggas. SNAP is requiring everyone to work at least 80 hours a month. That's roughly 20 hours a week. And yeah, if you're 64 years old and you have an able body, you got to work at least 80 hours a month. It also used to be if you had kids 18 and over, you had to do those work requirements as well. Now, if you have kids 14 and over, you have to do those requirements to keep your SNAP benefits. Also, who used to be exempt used to be veterans, homeless people, and kids that have aged out of foster care. Not no more. Got to do the 80, baby. Statistics are showing that by 2030, about 1 million people are going to lose their SNAP benefits. I would hope that means 1 million people either got a better job or figure something else out. Not that we got 1 million people that's homeless and hungry. Where are all these jobs about to come from? Oprah not out here like, you can have a job, you can have a job, you can have a job. Nigga, where are these jobs coming from? This starts February 1st. That's tomorrow, Sunday. And they're giving everybody a 3-month grace period to figure out where they're going to be working or start some volunteer work or get a part of a work program. But you have to put in that 80 hours a month. I mean, if you want to keep your SNAP benefits, if you want to still get that.
So y'all, it's slave labor. They gotta work and not get paid to get their SNAP benefits. So it's 80 hours of volunteer work. So it's just creating another slave class of people in the country. That's what it is. That's what it is. You know, and with the labor laws, it should not, they should get paid something for their labor, but it's volunteer. Volunteer. You know, I get the feeling that Republicans are trying to turn back that clock. They really, truly are. You got to look at all the free labor they already get in this country. They get it from the prison industrial system. They're now getting it from ICE detention centers. They're putting them to work for, you know, these crazy low wages, $1 a day. And now they're getting ready to get free labor from SNAP recipients. So they're turning the entire nation into slavery. And Folks don't even know what they're going to do. I would not be shocked if it's working for these rich multi-million dollar corporations, just like the prison industrial system. And the ICE detention center, y'all, you know what they're doing? They're making them do farming for $1 a day and a variety of different tasks. But the big thing is farming. So they went from working on a farm, got detained by ICE. Now they're doing forced labor on a farm and planting crops and everything for $1 a day. And now they're getting ready to turn the SNAP recipients into volunteers as well. I'm just saying.
You see the card. A lot of other states have other requirements, so definitely check your state regulations on your SNAP benefits and make sure that you got your stuff together. Okay, now, last thing, share this video around. I mean, send it to everybody you know, because you know your folks need their EBT and you know you need to buy it. Okay.
Did you hear about the major changes that's happening in SNAP? February 1st, things are going to change drastically. Let me tell you about it. Starting February 1st, people who don't have a dependent younger than 14 years of age is going to need to work or volunteer for 80 hours a month just to get SNAP benefits or apply for an exemption. Those who don't qualify for an exemption, they're going to need to prove that they met the work requirements just to keep their benefits. These is important dates to remember. February 1st, people who don't meet work requirements may only receive SNAP benefits for 3 months in a 3-year period. May 1st, 2026, people who use those 3 months and still don't meet the requirements, they will also lose their benefits. This will take place February 1st. Let me know how y'all feel about this in the comment section.
All right, this is just a reminder, y'all. The new federal SNAP work requirements go into effect tomorrow, Sunday, February 1st. Now, a lot of things have changed. If y'all remember, before the beautiful bill was enacted, this was enacted through the Big Beautiful Bill Act. A lot of things changed. It used to be if you was an able-bodied adult, that means that you don't have no injuries, nothing, you able to work. It was from 18 to 54. They raised it now. Now it's 18 to 64. So if you able-bodied, you can walk, you ain't got no injuries at 64 years old, and you on SNAP, you have to go to work now. They requiring 80 hours every single month. You know, that's roughly 20 hours a week. So if you're between 18 and 64 and you able-bodied, no injuries or none, you have to go to work now and do 80 hours per month. They also changed, it used to be if you had kids 18 and over, you have to go to work and do those 80 hours. Now is if you got kids 14 and over, you got to go do 80 hours a month. Also, the people that used to be exempt were veterans, homeless individuals, and kids that have aged out of foster care, 24 years old, no longer exempt. They removed that off the list. They have to go to work now. They changed a lot of things, y'all, through this big, beautiful bill. So they say they did an estimate and said by 2030, it's going to be over a million people lose their benefits because of this. But right now, it starts tomorrow. And like I said, they're giving y'all a 3-month window. You got till May to submit where you're going to be working at, or you're going to be volunteering work, or you're going to go to some kind of work program, and you got to show proof by May 1st. That's the deadline. If not, they say you getting off the SNAP benefits. That's how it is, y'all. They also said that a lot of individuals that have regular jobs that still get SNAP because they make, the minimum below, required to get SNAP benefits. They have to show their pay stubs and all that stuff by March. Yes, next month. March 1st, they have to show their pay stub. Now, a lot of states got different things that go on, so y'all have to check your state requirements and see what extra stuff they got, because, each state doing a little extra stuff, doing different stuff, but the big, beautiful bill overall, those are the rules, those are the new requirements, man. Y'all know, like I said, I'm just trying to keep y'all on point, man. Big Duke out. Love y'all, man. Thank me later.
Hi, everyone. I want to share some information that everyone needs to know about. This Sunday, February 1st, there will be huge changes to the SNAP's benefits program. And whether you or someone you know is on it, and if you're not on it, everyone needs to know this information. So last month, I went to a presentation given by the Greater Chicago Food Depository, and I want to share some of the information that I learned. About 1 in 8 people in Illinois are experiencing food insecurity. In 2019, there were about 121,000 people who were using the food pantries every month. Last year, about 193,000 people were visiting the food pantries locally. And so that was a 60% increase. Also in 2019, about 71 million pounds of food was distributed in the Chicago and Cook County area. And last year, that number was about 115 million pounds of food, and that was a 62% increase. And so, what the important thing is that people don't realize is that every dollar on SNAP generates at least $1.50 to $1.80 in local economic activity during an economic downturn. And in Cook County in July of 24, for example, Illinois took in about $281 million that month. With the changes in the big ugly bill, about $200 billion will be cut from Congress for the SNAP program. In Illinois alone, 1.9 million residents will be affected, including 650,000 kids, and about 450,000 people currently on SNAP are at risk of losing their benefits because of the changes that will be happening that I'll explain in just a few seconds. And then about 16,000 lawfully present immigrants will also be affected by these changes. In Illinois, it could cost us about $800 million more each year and approximately $20 million to implement these changes. So currently, with the SNAPS program, it's a 50-50 split with what the states fund and what the federal government funds. But starting in fiscal year 2027, which actually begins October 1st of this year, it would be 75%. And actually it varies based on a formula for each state. So for Illinois, it would be about 75%. Another change are the work requirements. It'll be where people have to work about 80 hours a month, whether it's volunteering, participating in an employment or training program. And if they don't meet that criteria, then they will only get 3 months of SNAP and a fixed 3-year period. They will be able to get their benefits again if they become exempt or if they meet the work requirements again. In addition, currently, able-bodied working adults, if you are within the age range of 18 to 54, you qualify for SNAP. But now, with the changes coming down the pipeline, it would be 18 to 64 years old. With these work requirements and changes in the age criteria, about 340,000 people in Illinois are at risk of losing their benefits. And
new SNAP work requirements take effect February 1st, meaning more people will need to work or be in training in order to receive the benefits.
Congress last summer passed H.R. 1 that expanded some of those work requirements so that some folks who previously weren't required to have a work requirement will now have to engage in work, training, or some type of volunteer activity.
The change affects people ages 55 to 64, parents whose kids are all 14 and older, veterans, homeless individuals, and people aging out of the foster system. These groups were previously exempt from SNAP work requirements, according to the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. Director Matt Damschroeder Schroeder says now they will have to meet the requirements.
It's important to underscore that a lot of these individuals are already working and meeting the work requirements, even though that they were waived from having to do so.
Joy Bivens of Franklin County Health and Human Services says about 5,200 households in Franklin County will be impacted by the change. She says county programs are in place to help people meet their work requirements.
For the expanded group, we are working with community leaders, faith leaders, and asking them if they will consider becoming a work participation site so that folks can maintain compliancy.
Dan Schroeder says for people impacted, your county job and family services and Ohio Means Jobs are the best resources. In Columbus, Catherine Simon, 10 TV News.
Thanks for having us on.
Well, first, can you walk us through some of the more significant changes that people should know about?
Yes. Well, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is SNAP, sometimes known as food stamps, participants of this program between the ages of 18 and 64 who don't qualify for any exemptions, and common exemptions are, medically certified disability or other reason that they can't work, having children under the age of 14. But if they don't qualify for any of those, SNAP participants will need to be required to work or volunteer or participate in a qualifying education program for at least 80 hours a month in order to maintain their benefits.
How is this going to impact what your organization and food banks around our area do?
We are preparing for a hunger crisis, honestly. Food insecurity is already high throughout the city. We all know how expensive groceries are. Anytime we go to the store, we get it. And if you are on a tight budget, and then, the thought of losing these additional benefits, it's difficult. We had a really stark preview of this back in November during the government shutdown when SNAP benefits were disrupted. We, during that month time, around that time period, we served more households in that month time than we have in our nearly 50-year history. So we're anticipating something similar to that. SNAP is a large and very successful program. It's our nation's frontline defense against hunger. And so disruptions to this are going to be really difficult for our neighbors who are on the edge of food insecurity.
Yeah, the need is so great and it's getting worse. Cameron, for our viewers who are watching and who would like to step up and help, talk about some of the ways that they can help.
Yes, I love that question. We've been so grateful for our generous Chicagoans who've really stepped up. We need volunteers, we need donors, we need advocates who will raise their voice. And you can find all of those options on our website at chicagosfoodbank.org. But if you are a SNAP participant and you have questions about this and want to know if you qualify for an exemption, we're also encouraging people to go to saveoursnap.org. To make sure that you are getting all the information and contacting IDHS to let them know about all of your details.
Cameron, do you think there are some people this will come as a surprise to? We've been reporting this in the news for some time, but I think there's a worry that a lot of people aren't going to realize this until this weekend.
Yes, and that I've been amazed. We've been talking to some different SNAP participants. I've been calling some in the past weeks just to try to get stories, to find stories to share even in the media. And I've been amazed at how many of them are confused, understandably, when you talk about how complicating some of these stipulations are, but also unaware. And it is really disturbing. And so thank you for an opportunity to be here and to share this, because we're trying to reach as many people as possible.
Have y'all seen this shit? As of February 1st, the SNAP program is going to experience new work requirements for just about everybody that's on the program. This is going to impact just about everybody that receives SNAP benefits. First, the biggest change is that the age cap is being extended. The age cap used to be 54 years old. People between the ages of 18 and 54 had to satisfy work requirements if you didn't have any, qualifying children in your home. That new cap is 64. So individuals from 18 to 64 have to satisfy work requirements for the SNAP program. That's big because you're talking about individuals from 54 to 64 that have to go out there and work. They don't got a kid under 14 years old in their house. But my life was better on the Trump. The second biggest change is that individuals that don't have a child under the age of 14 years old in their household now have to satisfy the work requirements for the SNAP program. Meaning that if you don't have a JIT in your household under the 14 years old, you got to get your ass out there and work. Or either satisfy the work requirements. I think it's like 80 hours a week of job training or volunteer work, check with your local workforce, center to get all the work requirements because y'all gonna have to get off your ass to work now. But my life is better in the truth. Another big change is that they're putting more restrictions on certain classifications of individuals. Individuals that are aging out of the foster care system, able-bodied veterans. You have more stricter work requirements now. Homeless individuals, you ain't getting shit no more. The federal government's position is that you are homeless. You're telling them that you're homeless. So where are you going to put these groceries at when you're claiming you're homeless? Why? So why are they going to give you food stamps? My life was better than Trump. That man ain't really like that. 2025 ain't real. They ain't gonna do all that stuff. Over 2 million Americans that use SNAP program to help feed their families are gonna lose access to this program. Think about that the next time someone's trying to tell you what's going on, and you look them dead in their eye, like, no, man, it ain't like that. It ain't gonna be like that. It ain't gonna be like that. Man, I don't know. My life is better under Trump, man. That's all I know. That's all I know. How's your life now?
Changes are coming to SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, starting February 1st, 2026. Some adults will need to meet work requirements to keep their benefits. If you do not meet these requirements and do not qualify for an exemption, you can only receive 3 months of SNAP benefits in a 3-year period. Some people are automatically exempt from SNAP work requirements. If you are 65 or older, under 18, or receiving Social Security disability benefits, you do not have to meet the work requirement. If the Illinois Department of Human Services already has this information, you do not need to submit anything else. To find out if you qualify for an exemption, use the SNAP Work Requirement Screener and enter your date of birth. If you are 60 or older, the screener will confirm your exemption. If you are younger, the tool will ask if you are unable to work due to a physical or mental limitation. If you cannot work, select Yes. Scroll down to find the Unable to Work determination form. This is what the form looks like. If you already received disability benefits, make sure your caseworker knows. If you are still applying or your disability is temporary, complete the form with your provider. Once complete, upload the form online, return it in person, or mail it to the Central Scanning Processing Unit. You can find the mailing address on the form itself. Do you qualify for more than one exemption? Tell DHS about all of them to protect your SNAP benefits. For more information and other SNAP resources, visit illinoislegalaid.org.
All right, y'all. I got kicked out of my own screen. I got kicked out of the live stream. So anyway, it was, when I got kicked out, it was at the very end anyway. So you pretty much got the drift of what they were saying. So if you are between the ages of 18 and 64, you now have to work for your benefits, whether you do volunteer work or if you go through a work program through them, which means you're probably more than likely going to get low wages for whatever work you do for 80 hours. You can best believe they're not going to give you no good wages. They're going to give you low wages, not going to be the best job. And if you fail to do any volunteering or get work for 80 hours a month, then you are limited to 3 months for the next 3 years. For SNAP benefits, you get cut off in 3 months if you can't prove or show that you're doing anything for those 80 hours. So the job market is really crappy out here. And it's going to be tough for people, on their own trying to look for work. And you know how it is for older people. The older you are, the tougher it's going to be to even land a job. They tend not to hire a lot of people over the age of 60. Those are just, and shoot, you can't even barely get one if you're over 50. So it's going to be tough on a lot of people. And some of them are not well enough to work, but there are some exemptions. And if you are here illegally, illegals are no longer allowed to be on food assistance. So if you are here illegally and you once got SNAP, you can't get it anymore as of February 1st. He has kicked all the illegals off of it. So if they don't have work, they're going to be out of luck as far as feeding their families. But yeah, so now it is a lot tougher. And if you do happen to get on there, just be prepared. You're going to have to work, whether it's volunteer or they give you a job through the government. They give you some kind of job to do for those 80 hours every single month. Mhm. So, no more just sitting on, SNAP benefits. You're now gonna have to get off your butt and do something every month, or they will put you off of the benefits altogether if you don't do anything or you prove that you're working. Mhm. Yeah, you're right, Valerie. The food banks are about to get real crowded up in here again, just like it did during the government shutdown. Mhm. Well, I guess they figure out ways to get people working, and I wonder how many of them they're gonna try to take to these farms where they raided the illegals. Remember they were trying to desperately get farm workers? Yeah. Mm. Well, we shall see. But see, we don't know what the volunteer work or the work is. They never said so far. They never said, we don't know what kind of work that is. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure it will all come out, and especially people that have to work those 80 hours, it will find out what the volunteer work is. Is it labor? Is it hard labor? What kind of work is it? We shall see. Mm-mm-mm. So, y'all, thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate it. The Crawford Experience, thank you for the super chat. This cut means that the elite billionaires will get their share. Yeah, yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, that's what I think this whole thing is about. Trump and his rich buddies making a killing off of the labor of people that are poor. I mean, look, those same billionaires are the ones that are taking advantage of prison labor. And now the ICE detention center labor. And now this is just a new labor for them to exploit. There you go. So y'all, I'm gonna go ahead. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. LLNYRN. You're right. But see, y'all, it's gonna be very interesting to see how this unfolds. We know the majority of the people on welfare are white. So those are the ones that are gonna have to get off their ass and do 80 hours a month, whether volunteer or some low wage job that they're given, they're going to have to get off their ass. So you're going to hear LL Cool. LL is cool, Lisa. Okay, LL. um so they're the ones that are going to have to get off their behinds and work. So it's going to be interesting to see the videos that come out when, the majority of these welfare recipients, white people, are going to have to get out here and do this work to hear what they're going to say about these jobs they're given. It's going to be real interesting, y'all. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on those videos to find out what kind of labor they got to do every month to get their SNAP benefits. Just remember, yeah, some of our people are going to be out there too, but the majority of the recipients are white. I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just saying. So I will see y'all later. I am going to do another live a little later, but look, please enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, I have the butter on sale on all three shops, my TikTok, Shopify, and Etsy stores. So take advantage and grab up that butter. Shalom, family.